Good evening. Welcome to the Monday, September 16th, 2024 Stakeholder Committee meeting here at Douglas Town Hall. Time is 5 p.m. I'm just going to read the charge of the committee before I open it. Charge of the committee has been formed as a subcommittee of the Select Board. This therefore must comply with the Open Meetings Act and be comprised of Douglas residents. Staff will provide support, most likely in a much more focused and proactive manner than typical for our various boards. Staff is charged with providing the committee with an overview of aquifer protection, zoning, and wetlands protection measures already in place in order to provide context for the proposed bylaw. MS4 compliance requires that a bylaw be in place. The committee is not an opportunity to attack the fundamental regulatory requirements of the federal law or regulations. If the committee wishes to make policy recommendations to the Select Board on such matters, they may choose to do so, but the advisory purpose of this committee is primarily to arrive at a piece of legislation that meets federal requirements under the permit, but also that the town feels is reasonable and balanced. The task of the committee is to review the stormwater management bylaw draft proposed by our MS4 consultant in detail. Those items raising concerns, as well as any issues committee members feel could be improved or which need to be added, should be listed. Staff will support the committee by researching and addressing each item in turn and any follow-up questions the committee may have. Required edits will be submitted to the committee for review before vetting with town council. The objective is to have a revised bylaw draft in place for annual town meeting in May 2025. Assuming that the Conservation Commission and Planning Board will review the draft before sending it to the Select Board for inclusion on the warrant, the committee will need to finish its work by January 2025. So call the meeting to order. First item is organization, looking for nominations for chairperson.
I nominate Colin Hare for chair.
Not interested.
I nominate
Thank you.
Les Stevens.
I'm not interested.
Well, don't ever mind you're not interested. You're young, take it.
I'm staying right here. Carol, you know.
No, I'm not taking any chair. I'm too old. I might not live long enough to do this. No. Especially if that doom buggy throws another tire. No.
Would you like to be the chair?
I would not.
No?
Les, I think that'd be a good job for you.
Dan?
Yeah,
No.
you want it?
No.
I think Les should have it. What do you think?
Margaret?
Les, why don't you want it?
Huh?
Why don't you want it? You'd be the
Come on, Les.
candidate. Go ahead. What?
Yeah, I'm just busy.
We're all busy.
We're all busy.
Yeah.
We're all busy.
Good job for you, Les.
I nominate Les.
I second it.
Yeah.
Oh, that was quick.
Got two nominations for Ms. Stevens. We also have a second.
Second.
Further discussion? Mr. Stevens, do you accept the nomination?
Sure.
There you go.
Okay, all those in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It is a vote. Mr. Stevens, you're now chair. I'll take nominations for vice chair.
Margaret? I'll nominate Margaret. Second.
It's a nomination for Margaret for vice chair and a second.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Hare. Margaret, do you accept the nomination?
I'll accept.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So voted. Nomination for secretary, minutes taker.
Not me. I'm not doing
No, the
it.
minutes-
Guarantee it.
Maybe done like the planning board?
So we have a minutes taker
So-
that's remote, but she's not currently tasked on this committee because it's a new committee. So like the master plan committee, we have a secretary in-house that does the minutes, part of the group.
Yeah.
Is anyone interested in taking notes for the minutes?
Don't look at me.
I think we ought to have that woman take the minutes. She can watch it.
Is that a possibility, Matt?
What's that?
To have the minute taker for planning board do the minutes for the
You
meeting?
could ask,
Okay, let's do that.
as that person's capacity. How?
Okay.
Okay. We'll table that. We'll carry that onto our next agenda. We'll ask if the minutes taker is available to do this meeting. Meanwhile, I will take the minutes for today, but this is not something I will
Thank you,
do
Matt.
regularly.
Appreciate it.
The floor is now yours, Mr. Chairman.
Great. So I think the first thing on the business we're going to cover is just the draft meeting schedule. We've got the initial meeting dates. I think the first item is just what's an ideal time to meet? Is it 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, or does this time work out for everybody?
5 o'clock works great for me.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's good for me.
I can do 5.
That's fine.
Okay. All right.
Get in and get out.
Yeah.
I
Just-
really will try.
Just want to ask the question there. 5 o'clock it is.
5 p.m.
Make that work. All right, and then if there's any, I guess regarding the schedule, if there's any dates or that you're not going to be available, can you just let Matt Benoit or myself know, just so we can prepare for making sure we got a quorum. Go forward from there.
Just need a motion to accept the meeting schedule as printed.
Yep.
So moved.
I think December 23rd, though, is kind of pushing it, 2 days before Christmas.
I'm hoping we're done by then.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
we'll put a
okay.
star on that one.
All right.
So Colin made a motion to accept the meeting schedule, seconded by Adam. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, ayes have it. Next item is just the stormwater bylaw review.
Right.
All right. Mr. Chair, may I?
Yep.
Okay, so what we have in front of us is the draft stormwater bylaw that we vetted through town council and our stormwater consultant. Originally, when this was supposed to go to spring town meeting, this had the Conservation Commission as the issuing authority. A lot of feedback we got from the folks here were to change that to the planning board. So you see throughout the document, Conservation Commission has been changed to planning board. On the third page, when the definitions was removed from urbanized areas, since that no longer applies to this document, and then you'll see changes planning board throughout. I don't have questions about, I'm sorry, before I move on, I don't have questions about the definition section of this.
I'm curious about the
Section.
urbanized, why was that removed?
Originally, there was an urbanized area that was scheduled for a certain part of town, but there
Yeah.
was never a map that was created for it.
Okay.
So I don't know what its dimensions are.
Oh, okay. So, but then we could accept this map here
Right,
as the map.
right.
Okay. And that's what the state, the federal government says, these are the areas that we have to have it in, that's the federal government?
Yes, that's the absolute minimum.
Okay.
So does every town that has adopted the bylaw reference this map?
Yes. Any questions
Their
on?
town, obviously.
Right. Any questions on, well, we'll start with page 1. Purposes and objectives of the board. Anyone have questions on that?
Are we going to go over the whole bylaw tonight, or are we going to take it home, look at it, read it, come up with ideas of what we want to do
We
with
could
it?
try to tackle a lot of it this evening. We got the time.
Well, all right.
Any questions on section
I just-
1?
I go- To Carol's point, I think my thought on that would be to kind of get an overview of
Okay.
what direction that the committee would like this to go.
Okay.
Are they happy with this format of this?
Okay. Well, in that case, let's go to section 6, which is page 4. It's kind of the applicability in the area of which this would be implemented. At first, one of the changes I recommended was that it be within the defined MS4 regulated area and wellhead protection areas. I don't have the wellhead protection area map for us here, but we don't have to include that if we don't want to, and we just do the MS4 defined area. And then I also put development within the following districts, but that's just opening it up to much more, so maybe we just strike that altogether,
Okay.
right? And we just focus on the minimum and the defined MS4 regulated area. One of the things I put on the board over here, at Carol's request, was I overlaid the MS4 onto our zoning map in the pink, so you could see where that area is. It's mostly the downtown, most of the village business district, all of it actually, and some of the other surrounding areas, including North Street, part of South Street, and it gathers Old Farm Road to the south, or towards the center there.
So only, projects that are within that hatched area would trigger this.
Yes,
And only projects that are 1 acre or more trigger this.
right.
How often does that happen?
There's not a whole lot of it, but those are the
That's where
standards.
Pines,
But they're in the industrial
all of
zone.
this.
But they're in the
Yes.
industrial zone anyway.
right, but they're
Yeah.
gonna trigger it.
Yeah.
Right.
But you know what?
The only-
I think they would have triggered it no matter what, a
Correct.
project that
They would have
size.
triggered that up.
That's
Yeah.
the question I
That's
had,
why.
I sent to you on that solar thing that we had all the problems with up there. Did they have stormwater on their plans?
Yeah,
They did?
yep.
But
I have the plans over there. if
Okay,
you
I'd
want
like
to
to
see
see
them.
that.
Yep.
But the reason it failed was because they did all the stuff before they did the stormwater?
Yeah, the reason they failed is they cleared the area and they didn't do the stormwater basin in
Right.
time before the rain events,
Yep.
and then it all washed out. So then they built their basin and it hasn't washed out since.
Because we did, the place that we did up on Gilboa, we did all the stormwater first.
Right. So that's what they were supposed to do, but they clear cut the whole site.
Yeah.
And then they started doing their stormwater. It's like, you gotta clear cut it in phases.
And they probably more than clear cut it, they would probably pulled the stumps too while they were at it, so.
They did.
Yeah, that's
Stumped and
really
grubbed the
killing
whole
it.
site.
That's a perfect example. Is the jury still out on that one up there on Oak Street? I mean, what's going to happen this winter again when the groundwater comes back up?
So far, they've done their entire system. Everything's installed according to the plan.
Right, but sometimes I think way too much emphasis or confidence is put onto these stormwater reports. You know, all the stormwater report is a model.
Yeah.
If they get certain variables wrong, then it's not going to work.
Right.
But you begin to trust the people that are the professional engineers that are supposed to be, and then it goes out for review.
You know,
So,
and they still can get it wrong.
Correct. So-
Right, see, it happen all the time.
No, agreed.
And that's why you hit
But-
that.
But what's the answer?
yeah.
What is the answer?
Yeah.
I mean,
What's the,
That's the thing.
I mean, it's not anything we can do with this bylaw.
No, it's
Right,
not.
right,
I'm just saying
right, right,
that happens. That
Right.
happens. So,
yeah, yeah.
I think just going back to where we were with the bylaw section, is it worthwhile just to kind of get the sense of this committee with section 6A? Do we want to just focus in on the MS4 map versus the expansion of the other districts and the wellheads and things like that? Do we want to
Are the wellheads in the MS4?
So I know where you know where most of them are, but
Street, both of those are.
there's the wellhead 1, so there's a zone 1 and then there's the expansion of zone 2.
Right.
So
Pretty much in this MS4 zone.
correct.
So it
Zone one.
would- that way there, don't put in more than needs to be in there. Just
Right.
call MS4.
Yeah.
And it covers all of it. That way there, if somebody says, well, does it do this? Yes, yes. And it's simple, keep it simplified. You know? And the only thing on that one map that they're not showing is there is a little part over by Lake Manchog that they don't have crossed by out.
No spot. Oh, it's oh, yeah, I missed that, sorry. Yeah.
I think that could be off Harper,
Yeah, that is.
down in that area. Which is where the campground.
missed one in this little corner over here. So, what do you think, the map?
Yeah, so the map would probably be your best bet. The only thing I don't know about is, this map does have a chance to change over time.
Right.
This is,
This is why, it does have a chance to change. It has changed. It's actually reduced from our original map that we originally got for MS4. Hilltop Drive was on it because it made it to the Long Island Sound. Like, I mean, this actually shrunk down over the time since we've kind of gotten into it a lot. This is down to this, but eventually it could change with the housing and everything that's built in, this could actually increase a little bit. Again, it's more in the downtown area anyway, so.
the verbiage then should state the MS4 map as of this date,
Agree.
Right.
so that,
And if we have to do it, we just have to come back and do it again.
Yeah.
So I guess one of the questions I have would be, there's a lot of areas in this, even though it's a revised map.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of areas that don't have any municipal stormwater management in those areas, so why would those areas be included in the map? If they have no municipal stormwater any catch basins or any infrastructure,
I don't
does that have to be included, or could that map be revised to be reduced down to just encompass the areas that have the
I
MS4.
can't say I know the answer to that. This is the map that we're given from them. This covers the area that they think does. So I don't really know. Yeah.
Can the map be disputed with them and demonstrate that it doesn't have, there is no municipal stormwater management in those areas, therefore the map be correct?
You talking about like the South Street area?
A lot of this, there's some areas that is all in RA zoning.
Yeah.
Like, the southeast Maine. Is that so far up on southeast Maine? We don't have drainage that far up.
No, so in a lot of the ones, so I can go just to street sweeping. Street sweeping, when I do that, and one of the requirements for street sweeping is that you have curbing and/or catch basins. Like, that's how you have to street sweep it, you know, so like if you go to, before the old Cemetery Street, I wouldn't have to do anything on that because even though it was in this zone, it didn't have any curbing or catch basins at that time. We've since repaved it, put curbing in, and now it falls under it, but because of that, it didn't originally. So, and that was one of the things off, but even though it was in this area, so as you're saying, I don't know if there's a way to break it out or not, I don't know, but.
Can I ask this? How recent is that map?
It is, yes, I
That's our
do.
last report.
2021. No,
Okay.
no, I'm sorry. Hold on. It should be right on here.
Yeah, that's a census. 2010, but I don't think that's,
Well, that's what I'm saying, so there's different things on here, that's what I'm talking, when is this map?
so we're going to,
There's,
The map's from
2010 date, there's
2013.
a what?
It's from 2013.
2013.
13.
Yeah.
So, it's quite old.
Yeah.
But do they base it, when they're doing
23.
census, do they base it upon so many people per square mile or something?
I think there's a bunch of different factors, because I asked that question when we first started this too.
Yeah.
And there's several different factors, and I don't exactly know what they were at the time, but there were several different factors on it.
So, the way I look at it is, what are we, 11 years old on the map? Should we try to get somebody that says this is the area to come in here in front of us and say why and how come? The reason being is, we're trying to bring this to town meeting. And you start telling people that we're dealing with maps at 11, 12 years old, they're gonna laugh at us. In a way, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Really is. Why don't we have the most up-to-date information from these people before, like you were saying, why is this area? Can it be contested? Can somebody come in and we can speak to them as to how they came up with some of these areas? Is that possible?
Maybe they only update the map every 10 years. If that's the case, then we're always going to be 10 years behind.
Yeah.
We
Which
just-
is fine, but we're already over that. Right, we don't know.
We don't know the answer.
There's no answer to that.
I'm sure they would have no problem coming in here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
If you look at the legend on the map, this is saying it's US based on the 2000 census and also based on the 2010 census.
Did one in 2020.
Yeah, the report
Yeah.
was filed in 2020, like I said, I'm assuming this is what was filed with our report.
So, and the only reason I'm saying that is we're trying to be a committee looking at a map that we might not even be using. So why don't we have the correct information right off the get-go and then move forward? It might be a lot easier.
I agree with Mike. I think that's a good idea.
Who is Nick that you mentioned that would come in?
CEI, he's the town's consultant for MS4 and Stormwater.
Nick Christofori.
Okay.
He was the EPA guy
Yeah.
that, from New Hampshire, whatever it was.
Yeah, it's our MS4 consultant.
Yeah.
Comprehensive Environmentals out of Westboro.
Yeah, okay.
Is he the one that prepared the draft
He does all the drafts, he does all our filing for us, puts our reports together.
CSI, is it?
CEI,
CEI.
Comprehensive
Oh, yeah.
Environmental.
Okay.
Okay.
And one of the things that I see on like Section 5 amendment and regulations, I'd like to see that spelled out a little bit better. Basically, they can adopt, periodical amend, management rules, regulations. Basically, they can take this, and they can make this a lot stricter than what,
Something's, we've been talking about that
yeah.
back and forth.
Right.
On how to do the verbiage and all this.
So the-
Matt's been looking into some of that.
There's two documents. This would be the bylaw, and then there's the planning board policy that would follow the vote.
Okay,
of
but
town
they
meeting.
make the policy
Right.
after it's brought into the law. Now,
Right.
I'd like to get the policy in with this,
We could do that.
so we know what it is.
Sure.
What do you
We could
think of that, you guys?
Makes sense.
You know, that way that, you know,
They're tied together.
yeah, they're tied together and people know what they're voting on.
Sure.
So I'd like to see the policy be part of it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
EPA reviewed the policy as well, so we have their comments.
Yep.
Is there a reason that it's the planning board and not the conservation commission? Why was that switched?
So originally, when the town engineer was here, this was brought forth as the planning board. I changed it to the Conservation Commission, just because I thought Conservation Commissions typically handle these. That's how they did it in Natick, that's how they did it in a lot of the other communities. But a lot of the pushback we got from the public was that this was originally a planning board item. Keep it with the planning board, they do subdivision stormwater, keep it there, right? So I've changed it back to planning board for that reason.
Sure, I guess my only thought is, isn't there, we open to some type of redundancy here with stormwater getting triggered for certain projects having to go before a Concom and planning board? So any job within, next to a wetland, you know, triggers stormwater with the commission, so.
Right.
Right,
Seems
but-
to me, some projects may end up, I don't know, look,
Yeah, I think the redundancy, I agree, Margaret. But the other issue I think you're looking at is you could have a site that's high and dry, and you have to go before conservation for a special permit for this. So, which is outside of the purview of the Conservation Commission.
I know the town of Oxford has a stormwater policy in place, and yeah, the Conservation Commission is the regulatory authority. And so whether you were next to wetlands or not, you still had to file with the Conservation Commission for a stormwater permit. So that's a result to this, is getting a stormwater permit from somebody, whether it's the planning board or,
Right. And the other redundancy, I think, on that would be, if you have the DEP stormwater management, which triggers, as you know, triggers a lot of stormwater management, how it's all designed there. So I want to make sure that this does not have redundancy. I mean, the Stormwater Management Act is what typically the engineers follow when they do their designs. So that would, if your project triggers that, then I don't think you should have to file for a separate permit for stormwater management when you're already addressing the stormwater in a particular project within that board.
so the way this is written right now, you know, let's just say it goes to the planning board. Are they saying anybody who triggers filing has to follow the mass stormwater policy and, you know, all those?
It's not, well, that's why I think the language is being inserted in here under exemptions or somewhere we can tie that in. So basically, if it triggers site plan review, stormwater management automatically gets done. If you're doing a subdivision, that automatically gets triggered.
Right.
Under
Right, under site plan review.
the
yeah.
site plan review, right? So if there's anything within the 100 feet or within the Concom jurisdiction, that automatically gets reviewed by Concom for the stormwater management.
But then we got the planning board and Concom reviewing stormwater.
No, because they wouldn't have to, at that point, I think it would be exempt from this because it's already been addressed at the board. So I think under the exemption section, maybe we don't have the applicant going in for multiple permits.
Yeah.
So
When you-
we'll
when you
have to
see
spell
the
it out in
Correct.
this.
Yeah, I think that would be best, because I think with subdivisions,
Yeah,
you need site plans and
We
everything else.
definitely try to omit redundancy.
Yeah,
So that, and knowing that anything coming in front of us kind of coincides with COMCOM when it's all needed. But it's a deal where, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, where we started, where we're not gonna make, planning board make somebody do stormwater, then COMCOM do stormwater. They'll do one and or the other, and then it's accepted by both. Type deal. That way there, you're not being told, well, you need 2 sets of prints, you need this, you need that. No, it's all worked together, and if this is triggered, it's already in front of the planning board, normally because the project's so big, and then the process can all start from there.
And then the other, to answer your question on why it wasn't at conservation, the conservation's an appointed board, so you have to take that into consideration that if the powers to be at the time don't like what that's happening, what's going on, they can be removed and replaced, handpicked. So planning board is an elected board, which represents all the people, and elected by the people.
And I only bring this up because I've been on the other side of the fence, not in this town, but other towns where your planning board wants it, and then the conservation commission wants you to do something different, and you're just kind of pulled
Yeah.
in different directions, you know, and it's costing your client twice as much, and
And that's what we're trying to eliminate, and I think
Yeah.
the planning board, at least in the past, has tried to, we saw that happening, we tried to stop it, because it's not fair. I mean, we did that big warehouse project, and, you know, together, and how it all worked out, there was no issues. Everybody was on the same page. And that's the whole deal now, is trying to keep everybody on the same page where we're not asking for, each board asking for documents, where one end or the other can appease the other also.
So I think a lot of that would be answered in the applicability section.
Correct.
Yeah. I think just to add verbiage in there.
Right.
Because I think the end, you know, one of the things we look at is how does an applicant coming before the town, where to your point, where they're not going like a ping pong back and forth between multiple boards or committees over stormwater or everything else, you know what I mean? And then let's say they need a variance too, right? And so they gotta go to Dan's ZBA for a variance.
we're just going to make sure we spell it out in this document.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what we should do.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a lot of things that gotta get spelled out.
Right. That's why I'd like to see policies spelled out, too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the other part of that, what we were talking about was, under the, I didn't have to go through this again, but does this have the home rule amendment apply
Yeah.
to this as well?
I think so, that's right in the front.
Do we really want the home rule amendment applied to this? Because the way I understand that is to be that after this is adopted, it can go to the planning board or whoever the board is that is overseeing it, and they can just change it as they see fit. Where, I mean, obviously through due process on the public hearings, but I would like to see that the home rule amendment is not used and it goes back to town meeting for a vote. So if a map is changing or any of the conditions of the bylaw is changing,
I'd like
it should
to s-
have to go back to planning.
I'd like to see that, too.
Yeah, and I 100% with you. This needs to be something where, and I think we've all seen it, where whether purposely, not purposely, whatever, things are put up on the town meeting at certain meetings when, to get it passed, because there might not be many people there, or whatever. And we don't need that happening. I think anything to change on this should take a 2/3 vote.
Right, that was the other.
I think this is a
Whether we
bylaw,
keep it in
though, so it's not
general
two-thirds.
or wherever it needs to be, so that if there's going to be a change, it's a change that the community wants, and not a change where, you know, you need 50
Yeah.
plus one
So this-
to make the change. Because this really can affect
Yeah.
a lot of people a hard way on a quick pass at a meeting where you need to have a lot of thought process. And how many times has this been shot down?
Yeah, two times.
3, I
Two or
think,
three.
that I know
It's
of.
3.
But I see the big thing in here is you have to be in this area, and then you have to disturb more than an acre.
But
Right, an acre's
what I'm
not-
getting at
an
is,
acre- an acre's not that much land.
that's what we're agreeing on, but we don't want it where overnight it get changed, where all of a sudden
500 feet.
2/3 of that map number's covered.
Correct.
It's like, where did that come
Well,
from?
I just don't see that many projects that would.
Well, they could change the.
No, they
I guess
could change the map, they could change the
map
description.
Correct.
Without going to
At a
town
meeting,
meeting.
Right.
you know, without a majority vote, they could change the zoning area. Then now all of a sudden it'll include 3/4 of the town. Now all of a sudden, everybody's yard, you do anything, you're gonna trigger it. And that's what we're trying to
So
stop.
They tried to pull that about 20 years ago. They had one going through that was going to take,
Right.
Yeah.
everybody,
Yeah.
the whole town was going to be affected.
Yeah.
So it's a deal where we want to, at least the way I feel and people I've spoken to, is you can't make it where changes on this can be done on the fly.
Yeah.
That there's going to be a process and a 2/3 majority vote
Well, that-
to change it from what it is.
I think if that's the avenue everyone's looking at, that would be, instead of being a general bylaw, it would have to be a zoning bylaw.
But you're right, it had to be zoning rather
General
than,
bylaw requires 50%.
right.
Yeah.
The zoning requires 2/3 at town meeting.
Do you want me to put forth drafts of both?
Well, I don't know, what, I guess this is our, I mean, we're formed here to kind of go forward. What's the sense of the group here?
I'd like to see it as a zoning.
All right,
So-
zoning.
One of the things that I asked our consultant about zoning, and I got a pending question into town council.
Okay.
Biggest thing is that properties under MS4 cannot be grandfathered, but zoning allows for grandfathering. Like if you existed prior to the zoning bylaw, you're exempt from this, right?
So what do you
But-
mean by grandfathered? Things that are already done?
Right.
You mean, so basically, people who have lots that they've already disturbed an acre might have to go in and get a permit? Is that what you're saying?
What he said is that MS4 stormwater bylaw regulations can't be grandfathered.
Bylaws. So by making it bylaws.
Grandfather or exempt?
MS4 bylaw regulations cannot be grandfathered. That's all he said. So I'm asking council for an opinion on that.
Clarification on it, yeah, before we go too much.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I think, I'm in favor of the zoning bylaw for the 2/3 as well.
Yeah.
But also, there's two concerns, like if the map changes, right, or initially the blanking, of the whole town being under stormwater management, triggering that, or any type of reach back would be my concerns and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Or if someone's already has, commercial property already developed in a plaza, and they were already signed off back in the 80s, to go up and kind of like door knock with them and then say, oh, hey, you're in this new stormwater thing, you're gonna have to put the stormwater system in. I mean, that's a little bit of a burden to put on an existing business owner. So that would be one of my concerns. But I guess, Dan, what's your thoughts of the zoning versus general?
No, I think the zoning's the way to go.
Okay. Margaret?
Concur, I guess.
Huh? Zoning? Okay, no, just so we can be on the same page, I mean, that's the goal, is so we're all, the census of this group, and thoughts on that, so. Margaret, I do like your idea about looking at, the provision on, relief and waivers and stuff like that, so we don't have conflicts between the boards, so we gotta,
There's an item under authority. It reads, nothing in this bylaw or regulations adopted hereunder is intended to replace or be in derogation of the requirements of the Douglas zoning bylaw, Douglas wetlands protection bylaw, or the Douglas subdivision control rules and regs.
okay.
Where are you reading that?
Under section 2 authority, second paragraph. Should also read the Wetlands Protection Act.
So do we want to scratch out the home rule amendment section?
I'd like to take it out.
Because if you do the home rule amendment, then that's where they can change that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Need to check into this Clean Water Act to see if that's like a mandate or something. Just
Yeah.
need to check into that.
See, what,
Well, it can say we're adopting it
Yep.
due to the Federal Clean Water Act. It doesn't say we had to do it under the authority of the Home Rule Amendment.
Oh, I see.
yeah,
That's all. I'm not saying
I
that
see.
that we get rid of the other thing.
I see. Okay.
so I guess you'd want to basically strike what it says,
Under authority pursuant to the regulations.
It's
yeah.
adopted pursuant to the regulations.
regulations, and that's it.
Yeah.
Under the authority, and then strike out from granted by, from there on,
It's adopted
Statutes.
to, all the way to,
under the Home Rule, no, no, just adopted and there pursuant to the regulations.
pursuant to the regs. Okay,
Adopted is the last word you use.
yep,
And then
Okay.
the next one comes up, there is pursuant of the
Gotcha.
regulations.
Okay.
everybody okay with that change?
Yep.
Okay.
Next thing under authority,
Okay,
where it reads Douglas zoning bylaw, Douglas wetlands protection bylaw, should also add the Wetlands Protection Act.
Wetlands Protection Act.
Yeah.
For,
Just the Wetlands Protection Act.
just in general?
Yeah, the WPA. And the
Okay,
Douglas subdivision rules. Yeah. That's a local ordinance, but the Conservation Commission follows state ordinance, so. Gonna cover that as well.
okay. doesn't, just for clarification on that, Matt, doesn't the Douglas Wetland, and Margaret may know, the Douglas Wetlands Protection Act, doesn't that, is that not part of the state's Wetlands Protection Act?
It's kind of like this, where there's a bylaw and then there's a policy.
Okay,
Like the Douglas Wetlands bylaw are the policy to the state regulations.
okay. All right.
Kind of works like that.
So we have the Douglas wetland bylaws and then the Douglas wetland regulations. Gets
Okay.
really confusing. There's two documents there.
Okay, so we got to put regulations in there? All right. Just so I want to be clear, and
No, yeah,
that
there's
makes
two.
sense.
It's very confusing. A lot of people miss one or the other. They find one, and then they just assume that that's it, and
Yeah.
then they miss the whole other document.
Okay. You guys want to go forward with section 3? If there's anything in there that's concerning or alarming or that changes?
I'm just curious about this certified professional in erosion control and sediment. I don't see where,
What letter
where
is
this
that?
where this,
C? Oh, sorry.
D.
D, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I think we can scratch that altogether, because it doesn't see where it says that's the person that has to do it.
I
agree.
agree with your point, Carl, because also they talk about the professional engineer
Right,
of good standing.
yeah.
You mean,
Yeah.
it's like two people. Why would you have two consultants or something like that?
And how many CPESCs do you know?
Correct.
Right, how much is it going to cost, and how long is it going to
Dan,
take to get
can you
one?
know any?
Right.
No,
You know what I mean?
So I would think,
Have you ever heard of any?
Strike
No.
That whole thing.
that's
All
right.
right.
I'd say, or you could put the PE in there, but.
Yeah.
We already have the PE,
Okay, then.
and I think that's going to be the person that, you would lean
Right.
on. You would lean
Yeah.
on for those drawings and that information.
So.
All right, so you want to remove D?
Get rid of that altogether.
Remove D, it also shows up under section 9, item B.
All right.
That role shows up on the bottom of that paragraph.
Section 9?
Yeah, item B.
All right, hold on. Section 9, so we would then cross out the bottom of that line
Yeah,
where sediment control, and anywhere where it says the sediment control person
Okay.
yeah.
can be removed?
I think that's the only
Get rid of
spot.
that.
Just in case it pops up anywhere else.
Okay.
I think a professional engineer, if needed, would consult with them if they chose they needed to. And then I think you have some more teeth in the bylaw as far as enforcement. If a PE signs something.
waiver.
And it doesn't work, it's failing, you have the town has recourse onto a professional engineer that stamped it, something's signed improper versus this other organization. What do you do? Nothing.
Right.
It's a special interest group essentially.
That's right.
Yeah.
So F, you talk about disturbances.
He's going to be the big one here.
E, yeah, well, that's, E and F kind of,
So I'm going to start off.
Where it shows up.
section
We're
2?
on E. Going
Yeah, we're on the definition still.
So we have
Vegetation, so.
new development way down on J, and then construction activity way up on E.
Oh,
I think the first thing, at least I feel, is J should be before E, so you know what area you're dealing with.
So.
Because right now, if you look at E, they're saying if you do anything.
So you think J should become the new D?
Well, you need to know, okay, only if you're doing over an acre.
But then it says,
They're in alphabetical order.
any land alteration
Agreed, but when we
resulting in a
remove it-
total earth disturbance. So that means, let's say that somebody's had a house sitting there for 20 years.
okay.
They got a house, they got a garage, they got a deck, they got a driveway. Is that all going to be part of this 1 acre?
Well, not only that, what, is this all within a 1-year period? What if I disturb an acre over a 3-year period? Okay, what's the deal on that? So each year I'm gonna go clear out a third of an acre, third of an acre, third of an acre. Well, does this trigger it? Doesn't trigger it.
Good question.
There's nothing that says it does or it doesn't. Number two, because if you have a homeowner or whatever that has acreage, and they want to have horses or whatever, and they feel they don't need to comply, so you clear a half an acre a year. All of a sudden, but there's no timeline in this.
think that'd be in the policy. We can look at that in the
Well,
policy.
this all needs to be
Yeah.
Right.
clocked together.
Yep.
You see where I'm going?
Yep.
You're trying to put this out, but it's too vague.
Right.
And not only that, when it comes down to the construction activity or disturbance, all right, of an acre, I claim I'm square foot under an acre. Somebody accuses me, no, you're a foot over an acre. What happens then?
You got to go get a survey.
Why? I'm innocent till proven guilty.
That's a good
So,
question.
this is gonna be the big, big problem with this.
Yep.
Is how that's gonna come down. And that's, I think, why this committee's here, to try to figure that out. Because it is gonna happen. We all know it. That's a fact.
Yeah, just on section 2 is just the definitions, but I think when we get into it, we can turn around and just say, to your point, of, construction activities from like bookend to bookend or something like that.
But what's the law? We're trying to adapt a federal state mandate. What do they say? Does anybody know?
How do they define construction activity?
What's that?
Was that your question? How do they define construction activity?
No, over what time span?
Oh, they didn't give
But
us
this,
anything
part of
about
this
that.
thing here is though on
Yes,
J,
open
any any total earth disturbance. So is that going back to something that's been disturbed 20 years ago,
No,
when somebody put their house in?
no.
I've read one of these bylaws in another town that actually had exemptions for an existing family and also exemptions for any A&R lots that were the planning board's approval. They were exempt, they didn't have to comply with this under the bylaw in another town.
Oh, really? What, bring it in,
I will.
bring it in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Mike, to your questions, I think what we can do is, we're definitely going to have a list of questions, we can probably get them at, so for the consultant that, for us to kind of vet out, because we're not going to have them here,
No, well, that's why I'm bringing it forward. We're trying to hammer these meetings out. These are, I think, some pretty major concerns that I've been hearing,
Yeah.
rumbling about,
Yep.
and the legitimate questions, because it's gonna come up,
Yep.
and it's gonna happen. Say you have two neighbors that don't like each other,
Oh, yeah.
and one guy wants to have a horse, and the guy says, well, you just disturbed over an acre of land. Well, prove it. I know I did it.
But the
Now, all of
compaction,
a
the horse
sudden,
walking
the
over there is
town's
compacting
involved.
it.
Well, we had a complaint. Well, I didn't disturb over an acre. Who's gonna pay to do what here? The poor homeowner, you're trying to attract people to the town, but now all of a sudden you wanna make them all run away because now everybody's gonna get in, say, a fishing contest. And if it's not in black and white, that's what it's gonna turn into.
Yeah, I think we need to, kind of chew over these things and everything before we bring this other guy in.
Yep.
Because
Absolutely.
we don't want to be,
Yeah.
we
Right.
Well, I
yeah,
think-
Definite questions.
have definite questions for
Yeah.
him. So that, don't bring him in on the next meeting.
No, but I think what we could do is maybe get some of the questions, to probably, I would say by maybe the 20th or something, submitted some early round of questions. Say,
Right.
hey, here's the first general questions
Yep.
we've got.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we're not he comes in and we've got, 50 questions. So
Yeah.
let's ask those questions as we come across them, pile them up on a Friday, so Matt can send it off on the Monday off to him, and then they've got a week to respond back. And then he can distribute the answers to us. And then, because as this evolves, we're going to continue to have, the what ifs and all the scenarios and stuff like that. And that's what we're here in the best interest to do. So.
And on that, you get answers on those in the beginning, the few, I might solve questions further down the road in this process.
Well, that's what's good about having a meeting like this, that everybody's getting to put their input in, and people have coming up with different ideas. I mean, some of this stuff, I think, gets written by someone who's never turned over a shovel of dirt,
Well, they live in a 100 by 100 apartment.
Yeah, right.
They don't care about the people that have the land,
Right.
Yep.
And there's a reason why people come out here.
Yep.
Is they have the land, you're paying taxes on it. You want to be able to do what you use it. You don't
Yeah.
want to
I mean, it's,
destroy stuff, but you want
Yeah.
to use it.
Well, a thought is, I could pull up some of these other towns' stormwater bylaws, and just for grins, kind of see what they have for definitions and things like that, and maybe that'll be helpful.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is really just for the MS4 too. You know
But
what I mean?
I'm willing to
Right,
bet
but-
you 95% of those stormwaters bylaws that they have, somebody put it to it and they just voted on it. They never had a group like this looking at it. They probably never had anybody, like I said, who's ever dug over a piece of dirt. I mean, you saw what they did with the building, when they put in the last thing, they never, all those things on what you have to do to the houses now. They never asked anybody that was in the building business. Environmentalists put it through, never asked a thing.
Stretch code?
Yeah, stretch code.
Yeah.
They put it in December, and it was coming in and going to go into effect in January. And not one builders association had any input into it whatsoever. And that's what I think you're going to find out. 95% of these stormwaters is what they handed it to them. Okay, we'll take it, and that's it. It's easiest thing done.
I think a lot of the towns that have adopted this as well are primarily built, towns that are very well built up, and they have, three-quarters of the town or more is under municipal stormwater management, so it applies to a lot of the whole town. I think the towns like Douglas, which have rural, have a larger land base, they're trying to apply a lot of that stuff to towns like Douglas, where it doesn't apply. And then they also have, some of the towns, what they did is they instituted a tax. They call it a stormwater management tax.
Yeah.
And they send, in court, it goes with your tax bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they charge a
Westboro.
fee.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
charge a fee for a stormwater tax bill.
Yeah, for your impervious surface, your roof and your
They
driveway.
Calculate,
Right.
some of it's like 5,000 square feet or greater, you're paid this much money. They calculate your roof, your driveway, they charge you a fee quarterly,
Yeah.
stormwater management fee.
I tried doing that in Auburn, that didn't make it to town meeting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's towns that Millbury tried to submit it too as well.
I think the outcome is to keep it at the bare minimum what needs to be done to meet the regulations.
But I definitely think we need to put the policies out there before somebody sneaks something like that in.
Yep.
Right.
All right.
So other towns that have bylaws, I know Mendon does, Oxford, any others?
Again, like I say,
If I may
I'm
ask-
really impressed by other people's bylaws, because I see how they bring them
Yeah.
in.
That's
They
the
don't
ones
mean
that
anything.
do. May I ask which ones don't have? Sutton?
I know Auburn doesn't.
Auburn doesn't? Sutton doesn't?
I think Sutton was just voting on one this week or
Does Northborough have one?
A lot of the
Northbridge.
same, I know the company that we deal with, it does a lot around the area, the same, basically, like I said, this is mostly like boilerplate.
Yeah.
Right.
This town gets it here.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
It seems like that. Matt and I, and the only thing I quite don't know in the answer on this is after we adjust all these and it goes back to the EPA or whatever, do they have final say, or it just goes through?
They're going to give us some feedback.
So they're
We'll
gonna-
also give it to
basically,
council.
Doesn't matter what we do, they're gonna give
No.
us feedback again. I'm just wondering, I don't know.
Because if that's the case, it'll never pass town meeting. So each one has to be, I think, tailored fit to each community,
Yeah.
each town.
They didn't have any issues with our draft as presented.
Right.
They just had concerns about that we didn't include the MS4 regulated area.
Right.
That was their big question. And so they asked that we put that in, and then we were good.
Yeah.
So everything else is, I guess, our opinions at this point. So Mendon, Oxford, Sutton, Northbridge, I'll look those up.
Do you want us to get you any questions that we have from this committee by like Friday, for the MS4 agent? So we can all put them in writing to them, so it's easier?
I got how is enforcement regulated in other communities?
Yeah, but if there's anything else that comes up between now and then.
Yeah.
So we can pull them together and just send one questions to them?
Yeah, it's a good point. So are we allowed to communicate via email amongst ourselves, or does everything
No.
go through,
That's
goes
come
to
through
you?
me.
Yeah, open meeting law, it's
Okay.
got to go through Matt. Yeah, there's no reply all,
Yep.
no reply all, real, yeah, just go to
Send
Matt.
Matt everything.
Yep.
Yeah, and then he can say, oh, Dan already asked that question, and,
Sure.
or it's being submitted or something like that. And I mean, I think that would help things, and I think the question we'll have about the map, like what is this, what's the date on this map? I think we're going to need that to be able, if we're going to adopt something, so we can kind of lock in this map, should the map, change in the future. It's not the one we adopt and it has to go back before town meeting. I think that's one of the key things that has to get carried forward, so.
And that's where knowing the map, I mean, if it's every 10 years, the map changes and going in front of town meeting and stuff is no big deal. Which obviously it might be, but those are questions that I don't think anybody here can answer.
No,
We
it's a great
don't
question.
know, that's why.
It'd be good to know how they come up with the area.
Correct.
Correct.
How do
You
you,
know,
is it
can
by
you say-
population, is
Yeah.
it by stormwater? Is
Yeah.
it just by-
Or do you sit with the dart and you throw it at the wall and say, hey, yeah, that looks good?
Even I don't know that, like I said, and we deal with this every year.
Yeah. And it's so vague, and that's the problem. We're trying to make policy and bylaws and stuff on vague information.
But I think also Colin brought up a great point earlier, is if there's a dispute of an area, I mean, that, southeast Maine down by, past the railroad tracks, there's no drainage there, there's no curbing there. So, how do they handle if there's an error? Whoever puts this together could be an intern at the State House, putting together maps together and doesn't even know where Douglas is
Correct.
on that aspect, so.
It
it'd be-
seems to do census, yeah.
Yeah,
Like I said, I don't know if it's by population in a certain area, there's too many houses in it, they just
Yeah.
circle it, I mean, how Old Farm jumps
Correct.
out of the end of it, I've never, and like when our original map came out, Hilltop Drive and all that was in it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then that all got taken back out,
Right.
so, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think, usually if they're doing it by the census in certain areas, I think they're probably assuming that the lot sizes are smaller if it's a higher population. So they-
yep,
Don't know.
that's fair.
Be an interesting question.
Okay.
I know a lot of the towns that I've looked at on their map, a lot of them, some of them have disturbances of 5,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet, but their lot size is only 10,000 square feet,
Yeah, right.
Right,
or 5,000 square feet. So
yeah.
it's pretty much, I think it's kind of blanketed everything. And I don't think people really, most people don't really pay attention to 95% of it anyway, unless it directly affects them at some point.
Right.
And then they get all fired up about it.
I'm just looking at section 4, if there's anything in there. Again, this is our first, committee meeting, if there's something that comes up in section 4. Good.
I always wonder why a decision is final and you have to go to the courts for, it's kind of tough. Isn't there any way of making that a little different? A decision, the reviewing agent shall be final. Further relief of the reviewing agent may be sought in a court. So basically now you got to take it to the court.
Well, what's also interesting is what you just highlighted was, the B, it talks about planning board or its reviewing agent. If the reviewing agent's bringing before the information back before the planning board for the discussion. So I think that's, you don't want to lose any of that. The final, I think, section C, it says final, right? So wouldn't the final decision come from the planning board and you would lose? Or it's, unless there's
Yeah.
no outcome, right? So if they go out and say, okay, we looked at this thing and there's no, you're not over an acre, maybe it's, adding a parking spot, so then the agent can make some type of, zero determination, there's no determination, no impact,
Well, the other thing too is the reviewing agent going to say, okay, you are within it, but we're going to add all the rest of the stuff in? I don't know, I hate to have to go to court.
yeah.
You couldn't say that shall be final unless disputed or.
I think that needs to be added in there.
The ZBA, go to the ZBA.
No, you can't go
could do
ZBA.
that?
Can't go to
No.
You can't get ZBA from planning, but I would say if there's disputed from the agent, it's tough to say, I think the or its agent shall have the final, I think there has to be something added in there. If the agent determined that there's no trigger, or, no issue there, then fine, then the applicant's happy, right? But if there's if the agent says, yeah, you got to do something, you got to go before the planning board, then the Board of Authority should have the final say. That's, I mean,
It is, and that's where, going back to what I was saying earlier, comes into play.
yeah,
So, there's a dispute.
correct,
I say I'm under an acre.
Yeah.
You say I'm not.
correct.
All of a sudden, the planning board says, well, that thing is final. How can that be? You haven't proven that I'm over an acre.
Of course, I've got one nobody would want to hear. If
that's
they-
where it comes down
If they
to all-
tell you you have to get a surveyor,
But what should
Oh,
I
wait.
have to do
Oh, no.
do that?
and if it comes back that it's an over an acre, then you have to pay the survey. If it comes back that it's under an acre, the town has to pay the
Wouldn't
survey.
happen
How was that
something
one?
But, I mean,
I second that, Carol.
that's where you're,
You want to do it? Well, then you pay
Yeah.
for it. There was no
That's where
reason I
you're
should have had to do this, and why do I have to pay for it?
that's where you're adding the burden on you're guilty then till you prove
Right.
something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is wrong, because I've been down that path,
So,
and it ain't right.
yeah,
That's something that's real hard and got to be really thought of.
so,
So should it be worded then something on the words, like, so a decision of the planning board, scratch, or its reviewing agent shall be final? So, I mean, so to scratch, reviewing agent shall be final, and then put in some,
that the reviewing agent has, because reviewing, I think a reviewing agent, someone going out, taking a look and going, okay.
Right.
Yes or no, you got to go before the planning board, you know what I mean? And so, I just think there's something missing there in that section C.
Something to ponder over.
Yeah, someone ponder over it.
satisfactory evidence is provided to the planning board.
Or to the reviewing agent, that, you know what I mean, so they come out and there's not a reason to, filing, right? Because, it's like the fees, right? An applicant has to then hire an engineer, do a plan, come before the planning board to find out, Dan, there's no disturbance, you didn't disturb over an acre for your 2 parking spots that you're at.
You
Do
just cost me 10 grand.
you know what I mean? I think there has to be something in there,
That's the problem.
common sense
You-
type of thing.
You know what, though? Basically, you need to have something in it. The reviewing agent can go out and look at it without a plan, because what you're going to have is you're going to say, we'll go review it, but you bring all the plans in
Yeah.
first, spend all the money. So
Yeah.
we need to have something more in there. The reviewing agent can look at it without set of plans.
That's what I'm.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we won't have it tonight, but maybe we should think about some
That's
language in
something we
there.
should think about.
Yeah, some language in there, just because I think we've all seen that
Yeah,
along the
go out,
lines or
spend
heard
10 grand and then
people
say, oh, yeah, you're not.
spending money for unnecessary reasons that was simple of like, hey, there was no issue there.
If satisfactory evidence is provided to the reviewing agent may determine the project is ineligible for permit.
But what is satisfactory evidence?
Right.
Yeah,
What is satisfactory? I'll be satisfied if you bring in that $10,000
That
engineering.
disturbance is less than 1 acre.
The reviewing agent can go out there with a wheel and do measurements.
yeah, no.
I mean,
But is there a fee for the reviewing agent, right?
No,
there's no fee for the reviewing agent?
no, it's town staff, unless the planning board makes it a consultant.
Okay.
It's probably going to be me,
Which
to be honest.
Hey, no, but get your wheel.
Well, you get wheels or,
know what I mean?
a lot of times the Mass GIS mapping, you can get areas off of that.
So, yeah, I mean, whatever we come up with, I think
Okay,
adding some language to 4.c
Okay.
would be worthwhile.
okay.
And I think we're all on the same page there.
Okay.
Your section 5, the amendments and regulations,
Which one?
section 5.
Yeah, that's the policy. And then we'll look at that at our next meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
The policy, section 5?
Yeah, the rules and regs. Yep.
Okay. All right, so, yeah, we can skip over that. I think, section 6, I think, I don't know what the census of the group is here, but do we want to, I think, we talked about the area, 1 acre. The section in red, do we want to eliminate the section in red?
Yeah.
I don't know what the census is, I'm not trying to,
Well, we're going to be, there's 4 within the MS4. So that's in red.
Correct. And we're pointing to the map, right? But my concerns is that some of these areas aren't even
Yeah. all right.
in there, and I don't want it be a blanket and say, oh, you're in the commercial district, now you're getting pulled in, or you're in the RC2.
Just MS4.
Okay, MS4 and
I think that should be sufficient.
defined as wetlands, but MS4. And get rid of
And
it.
there again, on this here with the 1 acre, it should
Yep.
be highlighted like from previous. Is it within a year? Is it within, half acre a year? Or, I mean, what's, disturbance of 1 acre is an open-ended,
I think that's going to be a tricky one to even tackle.
It is going
Yeah.
to
but it has to be.
I know, but how do you,
be, it's
5 years from now, somebody declares a little more in their back, different owner.
Yeah.
Who's
Well-
who's going to police that?
yeah, right, that's true.
Well, yeah, what happens is that someone pulls up a map from 7 years ago and does it, you're like, oh, look, I mean, you added 7 more parking spots,
But it's going to be
and,
3 different owners at that point.
no, I agree.
How do you?
Right. So that's where something that really has to get hammered out,
Yeah.
I got
big
that.
time.
Okay.
It's a good question.
And I think the exemptions in 6, I think that's just where people, I think this, we have to think of what exemptions that things would be exempt from. Especially from your side, Adam, like what you would think that we should be exempt on, like it doesn't have the curbing, it doesn't have the drainage, right, in the street, like,
And that's why I think if we know how they come up with this,
yeah.
I think that'll help all of us, and just to
Yeah.
figure out how they come up with it. And then at least I can go through and say, okay, well, I know this doesn't qualify, and that doesn't, but
We'll stick it in the exemption
and
area.
does it change our map? I mean, does that, if we determine it doesn't, as we said, we speak with Nick or whoever, and then we realize, or does it not matter? Maybe they don't, maybe it doesn't matter, it only matters just the street sweeping, but it doesn't matter for the zone.
Yeah.
Zone's the zone, and that's it, I just don't know how they come up with it,
Right.
so I'd like to know that before.
Yeah.
Really.
Oh, yeah.
Agree, yeah.
And on the exemptions, improvement of land and agricultural use, so that means what? You need to have an ag license or anything, every house lot where RA, right? Rural agricultural, is that everything in RA? Well,
Agricultural is usually like 5, under that bylaw, it's like 5 acres.
it doesn't say it here, it doesn't say it here.
But isn't it referring to that, referring to, where's the,
It's in the
in
definition.
the definitions?
Normal maintenance, improvement of land and agricultural use defined under MGL 13140.
That's the part, the defined under.
Yeah.
And that's where you get the 5 acres.
Right,
So if you want to
so
have your own
you need to
little
clarify that, because
garden.
there's a lot of people that have over 5 acres and they're not ag.
Yeah, that might be not registered farm, right?
That should-
They-
But are they still considered ag then?
That should be MGL
It said it-
Chapter 61,
So this is a gray area?
Yep.
61A,
Well, the-
61B.
But that means that they're registered. So, to Mike's point, if someone is not a registered farm and not underneath 61A, 61B, but they're just,
They are a farm and they have more than 5 acres. They have 10, 11, 12 acres,
Correct.
just that they don't want to get involved in that tax rate
Exemption,
deal.
yep.
They want to keep it on their own.
Yep.
So that means you're penalizing one group of people over another group of people, which isn't right or fair.
I don't think that MG something has to have in a certain type of tax thing.
No, I don't think
I think
so.
that's just what the government, what the things, if you've got over 5 acres and you're selling crops, you're,
That's wrong, because you need to have $500 of proof of movement.
right, 500, selling crops, $500
But
worth.
if you don't want to be on the books and show that, you also get tax break on your property.
Right, but a lot of people don't have.
That they don't
tax
want
rate.
to do that.
Right.
So now you're penalizing those people, even though they might want to have a farm, and they might own 12, 13 acres.
Because I don't think you're going to find too many 12, 13 acres in this MS4 area.
Huh?
You're not going to find anybody that's got that much acreage in this MS4 area.
Well, right now, but the
Yeah.
thing is, you start looking at stuff going down the road, and people want to start changing maps, and you don't have verbiage in here to protect them. Now you just open up Pandora's box.
Yeah.
This is the time to put the language in there. not kick the can down the road. Now is when you want to do it. That's why.
Maybe what we
the committee's
actually, we need to get a copy of the law about the agriculture to read it and see exactly what it is.
5 acres for the agriculture exemption.
Yeah, it's in our
Yep.
zoning bylaws.
Yeah, and I think it's state law too. It's the
It
5
is.
acres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I know that if you got 5 acres, we can't even make people get a kennel license for dogs.
Right. And they could put more than one principal structure on their one lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot they can do. Land in agricultural use. I don't know what's defined in the Wetlands Protection Act, but we'll take a look at that. All right, back to where we
We're
were.
on section 7.
Is that kind of something, I don't know, because I don't follow the planning board a lot. Is this similar to these regulations or these, cease and desist? Is that, the planning board does that now with stormwater or not? I know they have, you guys set stuff for stormwater. Can you do that now with, repair, make them repair and maintain or replace stormwater management?
These are more consistent with cease and desist for wetland regulations.
Okay.
I mean, there's no replication listed here or anything like that, but it's remediation anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think, what's in here, when they had to do the whole thing with the solar farm, and they had said, hey, you gotta come to the planning board, come up with a plan, you know what I mean, and stuff.
I think this kind of addresses what Margaret was saying about, when these things happen. And I said, well, how do you stop it? Well, sometimes you can't stop it, but you got to have a way to get it fixed after. So I think,
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of problem with those things there. I don't know about anybody else.
I think that's why I was asking for the planning
Yeah.
board. Just, this is already normal practice.
Right.
I should say, then, you guys know how to deal with that, then. And this seems the same.
Was there, I don't see it underneath the enforcement area, but there wasn't there a cost, something that was floated in there?
Just associated, that'd be in the policy.
Policy area?
Yeah,
Okay,
wouldn't put costs in the bylaw.
okay.
So, we on section 8?
Yeah,
Okay. So this is kind of the one that Mike was talking about, being able to go on site. But the way this reads to me is by filing an application, this permits the reviewing agent to then go on your site. This is after an application is filed. This doesn't give them the authority to go on site prior to there being an application, right? Just.
I have an objection to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's wise, they're holding you hostage. If you get a permit, they can come on your property anytime they want. I still think there should be adequate notice given. I think there's a policy that the selectmen adopted not too long ago, probably a few years back. And it was over a conservation issue. And I drafted a policy on entering somebody's property. They have to give somebody, I think, a 24-hour notice to enter their property, so they're just not walking on, jumping
Yeah.
up on people's property.
Because I think that happened.
It
Wasn't
did.
it at
Yeah,
Concom?
that's what
They
happened.
just
Yeah.
walked on people's property.
They scheduled a site walk? and they
no,
just-
No, they
it's
just-
by themselves.
Oh,
Yeah.
not good.
Yeah, and I think,
I mean, they removed that person from
Correct.
the.
Oh, yeah, I think I know which one that was, yeah.
but I think any board or person in it, this would just protect both sides, right? Like, the board, the agent, the acting, the reviewer, as well as the property owner, to have like a 24-hour, 48-hour notice, because that, you set up time to go out there and take a look and stuff like that. Because if it's something else, if it's something else happening, nowadays it can be recorded and everything else, or a complaint gets filed, but, he says, an applicant, you know what I mean? Here being filed, as something being filed, it makes sense to have an appointment then, because they
Yeah.
filed an
Right.
application. But that's just my sense on it, so we could probably add in some language that would protect the town, the reviewing agent, as well as the property owner, that there would be some type of time.
Yeah, I think that homeowners should be notified.
So what about those jobs we talked about where the neighbor said you are disturbing more than an acre, and the homeowner says no? So he's not filing an application, then how does that allow the reviewing agent to go out there and,
So this, but this is entry to perform duties. I mean, I guess, so maybe there might have to be a section B, right? Section A, if someone files, you know what I mean? And then section B, or maybe in another area, if there's a complaint filed. I think that you got to separate the two.
Well, I think if a complaint's being filed, then the people that are complaining, they're not going to say no for somebody to come out and look at their property so they can see what they're looking at. So they would still have that right to go with the person that's complaining.
So the
So if you-
guy who's complaining is complaining about his neighbor.
Right.
So how does a reviewing agent go out there and,
But they could stand on your property.
You can
Right.
stand, if he
If-
can,
if he
The
can
neighbor
see
could be
it-
down
you
the
can see him,
street,
his property is complaining,
Yeah.
you should be able to walk up that property and see it.
but if the neighbor's down the
Without
street,
going
the
on
neighbor
that
is-
property?
Correct, without going
Right.
on.
So
If the
forget
neighbor-
about
it's out
the
in middle
wheel.
It's out in the middle
Yeah.
of
So
nowhere,
how do you-
the neighbor's just complaining because there's noise making out there.
Correct.
It's invalid, I mean, it's kind of just.
But how do you get that area that it's an acre of disturbance?
Well, then, again, but then you're underneath enforcement where they can send a letter to say, hey,
Let us come on your property
yeah,
so we can.
to schedule something. Yeah, I mean,
but what if the guy says, no, you're not coming on my property?
Well, the other thing too is you can determine a lot now with the online maps.
Right.
yeah.
I mean, you can measure and everything else on the online and,
Yeah, and nowadays they're being updated in,
yeah, pretty quickly.
not a yearly basis.
Yeah.
It's almost like, monthly, just 6 months.
Everything's something
Yeah.
saved or something.
Yep.
It's a whole new world.
Can they see it from the street? Is that how they look at stuff? Most times, and I know
Yeah.
you guys have talked about it before, I've heard you say it, where basically it's like a walk by or right on the street, you stay
Yeah.
right away and that's.
That's as far as we can go, without their permission.
Yeah,
Right.
but then I think the, adding something in there about, entry on people's property to, whatever, 24 hours or
Oh,
48
yeah, I
hours.
think definitely.
Makes sense. It just protects the town, it protects the person doing there, That way there's no surprises, right? And I think that's the big issue is,
And you don't want to go home walking on somebody's property because you could be in for a real surprise.
yeah.
Well, I'll be,
Somebody else snooping around in your backyard at 5 o'clock at night.
I'll be honest, if I look out the window and I see somebody on my property, I'm going to be afraid. I'm going to be frightened, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Who is this person? I am going to be frightened.
Yeah,
And I don't want to be frightened.
no,
So,
that's a fair thing. And it's just coordination.
It's courtesy,
Yeah.
right.
if anything.
So Matt,
It's just,
I got a question.
it's courtesy.
Thanks for the question from Matt. So Matt, if you if somebody complains, typically, if you went out there and you were on the guy that called,
Yep.
you're on their property, you see something, that would be, okay, it's a violation substantially. At
Yeah.
that point, wouldn't the cease and desist be a letter be sent to that person?
Yeah.
And then that opens the discussion of
Right.
of how that's going to move forward.
Yeah, the cease and desist, and then with the policy, we can implement fines if we wanted to. If they don't respond to the cease and desist, you can start issuing fines.
And I think that's the big thing, is when there's no response, right?
Right.
Right.
If you see people doing goodwill and stuff like that, but if there's no response, I think it's a whole nother issue in itself.
Yeah.
I mean, So, no, that's a great point.
I mean, there are people who go out and do something, and they have no idea they're not supposed to do it,
Yeah.
you know?
Just
They have
happened.
no idea. They're not trying to be, lawbreakers. They didn't know.
But a lot of times, the town themselves don't know the law, and they're making you stop on stuff that's legal.
Well, I think they
That's-
may know.
that's a fact.
Well, you're right. Well, I was watching Neil Gorsuch, the Supreme Court thing. He was talking about how many laws there are, and he said, I mean, unbelievable. He said that every single person breaks the law every single day, because there's that many laws out there that you have no idea what they are. There's not a person that doesn't break a law every single day.
All right.
All right. Waivers, provisions for relief?
Section 9?
Yeah.
3.
The board or its reviewing agent, the agent, and this gives them the authority to kind of waive the requirements of the bylaw.
Right, and not inconsistent with the purpose and intent of the bylaw.
Yeah. So in section A there, they can meet any one, I'd say, I would add the, with any one of the required below.
Where are you seeing that?
No, I would add that language or something like that. 'Cause sometimes, when you it gets confusing that sometimes, oh, hey, you gotta meet all 4 of these to qualify. I'd rather have some language in there to say, you only need to meet one of these for the waiver,
For any of the following
Any of the-
circumstances,
Yeah,
Okay.
or something like that.
because Dan, you run across that like with ZBA, right? Where looking in for when people request waivers and variances, right? And does it always, you have to meet all 4, in the language, or, meet one of the 4?
Yeah, well, it says all 4, but
Yeah,
obviously can be waived, has been waived.
yeah. No, that's why the reason why, that's what made me think of this, of like, oh, just have to meet, one of the 4. And it's, again, at the discretion of the planning board, I would make that in there as well.
Okay.
And I think that opens the door with the agent, basically, with the information that they're provided to the agent, that they can say, hey, this is, you're not going to be, have to file.
Section 10 is after a decision's been made, right? Permit notices or...
So, some of these going into policy, the section 10, or would that be in your,
That's in the,
I'm just wondering,
that's in the bylaw.
that's in the bylaw
Yeah,
area?
it's here.
Okay. Any questions?
So we're, see, go back in there, yes.
I just, like, we're gonna be creating a policy which was underneath section 5, the amendments and regulations. Right, that's where the bylaw piece would be. So
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if section 10, civil relief, and because you also get into penalties and things like that, is that it could stay in here. I'm just trying to think where those two would live.
So
That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
with conservation, the state mandates that you can fine up to $300 per day. And then the policy allows us to put that number under if we so choose. So this bylaw
Yep.
gives the cap of should say up to $300 per day, and then the policy could reduce it if it wanted to.
So is there provisions, which I haven't read, is there provisions for, say, like to Carol's point, somebody doing something, they really don't know that they're in violation. So just to go on a good discussion
Yeah.
and say, look, this is what the bylaw is on our, and the first-
Yeah.
just-
I typically have some leeway with folks, ask them to file an application, and then we don't hear from them for a couple of meetings, then we probably do a cease and desist, be up to the board if they wanted to do it.
So I didn't want to just jump to a fine, I guess.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
God, no.
See somebody.
Yeah, and I would just speak.
It says
to my-
may be punished by a fine.
Well, I would, and what's the, should there be a fine someone for 7 days and it's $2,100. You know what I mean? What is the person or the applicants, could be a company or whoever, what's their, could they go before the planning board to say, for asking for a reduction, or, I think some type of language would be helpful in that case where, I'm just thinking of a homeowner, and just, you gotta think worst case scenario. It would be worthwhile to say, this is what can happen, however, below, you can appeal any criminal fees or, fines to the planning board, the board of authority, so you make an appeal to them. It's getting local control. I don't know, that's just my thoughts on it. I'm
Yeah.
speaking for myself.
So,
I had a gentleman bring up a good point at town meeting, and he had said, because I said, they talked about the changing the dollar figure to that, and he said to an individual, $300 a day is
It's a lot of
It's a
money.
lot of money.
Yeah.
And the same standards apply to, like the
big
solar
corporate.
farm.
Yeah, right.
They could care less. $300 a day isn't going
Exactly.
to change any
You're
outcome of
You're
what that
absolutely
is.
right. I'm
Right.
dealing with a job right now in Dartmouth that's really quite sad. The Conservation Commission issued fines on this poor guy because he had chickens in his chicken coop, was too close to the wetlands. And he's got no money.
Right.
And what he has forced to pay for, the plan, for the Conservation Commission, and then these fines they're nailing this poor guy with. I feel terrible for him. He doesn't have the money for that. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's a lot. $3,000, $5,000 is a lot of money for
Yeah.
a lot
He's
of
probably
these.
got the chickens because he needs them to eat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just kind of sad,
So-
Come up with
Some language in there?
Some language that would,
Yeah.
Give him the right to waive
Yes.
or
Well,
something.
yeah.
I think the policy would tackle a lot of that.
I saw one time
But here's the-
conservation,
I think you're referring to the policy, right? If we're gonna put a policy in section 5, even if we put it in, I probably would want to do, this is just speaking for myself, put it in italic, something in there in italics that it then moves over to the policy. But we would see some verbiage in there saying, okay, however, the planning board can do this, but we know that piece is going to move into the policy. I don't want it lost from this discussion, that when we say we're deferred to the policy, and then it never gets in there. So I probably would want to write something and then just put it in italics that's kind of written in there, that we know that's going to move in there, and that will be for that purpose of a homeowner, because, you're talking 30 days, it's $9,000, that could be burdened to someone who,
right, and also it says in there each day for each violation, so it could be $300 a day per violation. If you have 12 violations.
you're right.
yeah,
You're looking at $12 a day.
Yeah.
yeah.
'Cause I saw one time, a woman had lived in a trailer, okay? And she had these big pine trees right outside of her thing. So she had somebody come and cut them down before they killed her. Well, they fined her because I guess she was too close to the wetlands when she took them down, and they fined her. Well, this woman lives in a trailer. How much money do you think she had?
Yeah.
She probably couldn't eat for the month after she paid the fine.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
they have to be a little, like you said, that you're a person there too.
There has to be the ability at the local level to be able to waive those.
Right.
Be reasonable.
If they
It's
rectify the situation.
Reasonable people
Yeah.
on the board should be able to waive.
Yeah,
That also covers like the solar farm, like you said.
yeah.
Right,
The solar farm, they just
Right.
being egregious and just, they don't
Right.
care, then
right.
Exactly.
Then they
And-
deserve to get that fine.
Even on-
Absolutely.
Say a resident, whatever, that pretty much ignores everything.
Yeah, right.
Then you might go and
Yeah.
say, okay, then we're going to increase it. Since you don't respond or care,
Right,
we're going to do this. We've tried to work with you.
right.
Now all of a sudden you don't want to do anything. Then the option should be, like you say,
All right.
there, with a reasonable board decision,
I'll send Matt some language and work with Matt on adding some language there, so that way they can get carried over to the policy. I just want to see what the,
So take section 10 and apply that into the policies.
well, section 10 is another one that I wonder about if that's going to be moving into the policy.
refer to the policy.
Refer
Refer to the policy.
to the policy, you know what I mean? But I still want to be able to add any language in here if we're going to move and do a shift.
So, yeah, it has to be there in some capacity because the bylaw comes first,
Correct.
so,
But we can at
Yeah.
least insert pieces in there that we know we're going to put it in the policy, so this group,
Yeah.
you know, can see the language that's going to be shifted into the policy area.
yeah, okay.
Or could you have there, end of it, the last sentence, see policy for further details?
It's just, it's tough because the policy doesn't exist by the time this is
Okay.
adopted.
Correct.
All right. No,
But I-
that's
but I-
fine.
But I think
Understood.
some notations can be there,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose that. Even if there's like again, this is a working document, so even when you finalize this and goes for adoption, then the working document can be handed off to policy creators and they can see the notes and information that was discussed and what was eliminated and whoever creates, you know, the board that creates the policy, which is the planning board, right? So they can, so that's going to help them to see, okay, this is what we were advocating for. And Margaret, that would help you in your case with the corporate companies not caring about $300 a day
Oh,
and,
yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? But, you know, Joe homeowner or, you know what I mean, doesn't get crushed with,
Right.
you know, high fines. All right. Is there 13? Why, Matt, section 12? Listed of bylaws is.
I don't know what section 12 is.
Yeah, it just seems very open-ended.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And kind of like,
I'll ask Nick
Okay.
about that.
I appreciate it.
I've never seen that in any other bylaw.
Yeah, I don't know which way it's gonna, which way it goes with.
So for some of these jobs that are going to trigger this MS4 permit application, it's also going to be triggered site plan review at the planning board. So if they comply with the mass stormwater policy, then that's the remedy that's covered under this MS4 permit, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So there should be the exemption, that if there should be in the exemption section, I believe there should be
That's right, yeah.
spelled out
They-
that if they have to, if they're going to complying with the site plan review under the Stormwater Management Act.
Then it complies with this.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
that's in
right.
section 2. Nothing in this bylaw adopted hereunder is intended to replace or be in derogation with requirements of the zoning bylaw.
okay.
It covers site plan review, so.
Yeah, well, I guess it wouldn't hurt to spell that out, though. if
In the
the site-
exemptions.
Yeah,
Right,
I'd put it
right.
in the exemptions too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Because I
Under
think,
exemptions.
Matt, this is saying it's not intended to replace or vary from the requirements, but it doesn't say
Exempt.
they're exempt from, they still have to have another permit.
Yeah. And I
You can
think,
still take that, saying they still need 2 different permits.
So, yeah, so if it complies with the mass
One.
stormwater policy,
Correct.
then
I'd say they can
then
be,
it complies.
yeah.
right,
Right,
and they,
exempt from the MS4.
Is it exempt or it complies?
Well,
Need to do any,
you don't need to file because you're already,
Well, you might have to file for record.
but you don't have to pay for it. How's that?
But it,
You'll file it along with it, but you don't have to pay extra for
But-
it. How's that? Something like that type
would
of
that be
verbiage.
correct? Would it need to have a record for both sides of it?
Well,
Or,
that serves the same purpose,
Yeah.
so there wouldn't be a point to file this
Okay.
application.
yeah.
I did read the one online that did say that through the state on their opinions of what we should do and what we shouldn't do. They did have a section that said we did address a lot of the stormwater already through the planning board, through
Yeah.
Yeah.
site plan review, through Concom.
Yeah.
So a lot of that's already addressed.
Yeah.
I think it was specifically the way I took it was, they would just want to make sure the municipal stormwater management, that side, I think municipal drainage systems.
Yeah, that's one of the things we report in our annual report is how many site plan approvals were done, how many subdivisions.
Right. But I think we need to get it into the bylaw, because then it goes before a planning board, you're no longer there, other people have never
Yeah.
seen it, and they go, oh, we gotta have a thing on here. Well, no, take a look at your bylaw. This is what it says.
Yep.
This- You know, people forget, things change, 5
Oh,
years,
yeah.
you've got a whole new
Exempt if it
board.
triggers site plan review. So all that's addressed automatically.
Right.
And I think there has to be something that Margaret brought up, and I think we brought it up earlier, was if an applicant has to go before the stormwater and the planning board to go do all the things for a site plan review, they don't then need to go into conservation, or there's some coordination that happens versus creating a plan here and then creating a plan over there. That there's coordination.
So I guess you just need agreement
The
between
language,
the two
right.
boards that
The language.
Yeah.
the Concom agrees that if the planning board reviews and their consultant approves, that the commission's going to accept that.
Correct.
And I think in front of the big projects, we've discussed that right off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
Right in the very beginning of anything coming in, where that's been brought forward.
Yeah.
you know.
I don't think it would exempt, maybe I'm not taking that right. If it triggers Concom review, I think it still has to go to Concom, but not the,
Yeah.
if it's within the wetland buffer or the riverfront jurisdiction that the Concom currently has.
Yeah, it's-
I don't think you'd be taking that, bringing that to,
Yeah, I don't think it's exempt. Exempt's the wrong part of the term. It's the coordination, right? If someone's already going before the planning board.
Yes, and the Concom is going to accept, and this is where you have to get everybody on board for this, they're going to accept that the planning board is taking care of the stormwater review. And if the planning board approves it,
Yeah.
then the Conservation Commission
Has reviewed it as well, and
is
yeah,
is good with that. They're not going to do another review.
yeah, you
Right.
got hit with 2 reviews.
okay. So even if it's, I mean, the Concom wouldn't have any say if it was outside of any of the jurisdictions that they.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's only if it applies, if it triggers something that requires wetland review.
Right, and don't they do that now anyways?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's, is it done
So,
now?
so I guess with the MS4 permit application, maybe they still have to do the application and get the permit, but all the work's already been done.
Which they can show. They can
Yeah,
show
the
it's
work's
done.
already been done
Yeah.
through the planning board, and so you don't, it's just filling out that.
So is there something to add in here that if the applicant is already satisfied the stormwater management, do you know what I mean? So they've gone before the conservation, they satisfied the stormwater management or the planning board.
Yeah.
But then someone goes, oh, wait a second, you're in the MS4 district.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you don't have to then,
Right.
Right.
That-
Do it
That's,
all
that's
over
right
again.
in section
Right.
2.
Okay.
Nothing hereunder is intended to replace or be in derogation
Yeah.
requirements, wetlands protection.
okay,
Yeah, so absolutely.
no, just for clarification.
But that
Yep.
doesn't exactly say you don't have to get the permit.
I know, that's what I'm.
It's
That's
not,
not, it says it
it's,
doesn't.
it's the legal way of saying that.
I don't
It's-
know about
I know it's not as clean,
Yeah.
but that is essentially what that says, and it's intended to replace or be in derogation of.
Well, we'll have to ask that consultant when he
Yeah,
comes.
how lengthy
So-
is this permit application?
Right,
Is it pages or just a one page?
Again, I think we gotta submit some questions to Matt.
Okay.
yeah.
And I think that's fair to,
Yeah, like,
a
Like
nice
to
email
see-
to him so we can,
be interesting to see a copy of one of these permit applications.
good.
Yeah, maybe you could find us one of those, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Section 13 fees. You have in here, I'm just reading, the applicant, may require to establish an escrow account for the cost and stuff like that. I'm just trying to think, it's good that it says may, because if they're already setting up like a 53G for planning board or for conservation, they're paying review fees there. But the applicant must submit review fees with their application before the process begins. So I don't think there's anything that I see in there that's,
There's really no way for an applicant to do that, because we have to go out and get a work program
Yeah.
from a PE.
yeah.
And then that's after we get the application.
So do we, no, do we want to add in just thinking, if there's already an account in a conservation account that, let's say I'm paying into, I'm just, for example, I'm paying in for a conservation account, which is, was it 50?
3G is-
3G, and, or paying into a planning board account, right? If there's already one established type of thing, we can add the language.
53E and a half, I think.
That's to pay town staff to do the reviews. We don't do those anymore, because we don't have a town engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think what you're saying, if you already have a 53G for your project under planning board, then you don't need this permit, because you're applying for something that you've already, they're per address. That's how they're set up in the account system.
Yeah, okay. Should they have no other?
Right.
That's all, I'm just covering the point
Yeah.
for the fees.
On section 13, it says, the planning board shall establish.
Yeah. We have
Should
to do,
it stay shall or may?
we have to establish fees to cover the expense to get, for the application. We need application fees, advertising, public hearing costs. Yeah. we gotta do-
The only reason I'm asking is a situation comes in with a neighborly dispute or whatever. They get drug in. You're gonna make them pay a fee, or that's something, no,
Yeah.
who's gonna pay the fee?
The applicant.
No, there is no applicant. You have a neighbor complaining.
Oh, so it comes in as an enforcement order.
Correct.
That's different.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Is that gonna be laid out here, though?
Yeah, that's in the enforcement section. So they come in under enforcement order, we issue a cease and desist and ask them to file an application, or they're subjected to fines. That's one way or the other that happens.
Right. Yeah, okay. I mean, there's still a big gray area there.
Yeah. I just noticed, sorry to jump back to this, but you say professional engineer, a licensed professional engineer in good standing in the state of Massachusetts. Could you add that to N? I just don't want a PE out of Nevada.
Planning has to pay the fee.
You know?
Where are you?
I went to underneath the
There's a
definition.
local.
Definition.
Yeah,
Question. Local.
yeah, licensed in the state of Massachusetts.
Yep. Okay.
Sorry to be petty about it, but I
That's
just
all right.
want to make sure, bring that up.
So the last sentence of fees says applicants must submit review fees with their application before their review process may begin. I say the applicant must submit review fees prior to their first public hearing.
Yep.
What number is that? What you're looking at?
Before the...
Which one?
13?
13, the last sentence. The applicant must submit review fees with their application before the review process may begin.
Yeah, but they can't submit it with the application, because once we get the application, we send it out for a work program from a PE, they give us a cost, and then we give it to the applicant, that they pay that hopefully before their first public hearing. Or the public hearing automatically gets continued, because we don't have a peer review yet.
Yeah?
And we've also had it where they'll bring the check with them at the time of the meeting.
Yeah, you can,
Yeah.
like, thanks a lot.
Forward,
Yeah.
because they know a number.
Correct.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, agree. Yeah, so we got to add some language there.
Yeah.
You want to take out that second sentence, because we don't do that anymore?
Says applicant must submit review fees prior to the first public hearing.
Last line, change.
Yeah.
Now, this would only happen if they don't trigger stormwater with planning board or conservation commission, right?
Yeah.
So there probably not going to be a whole lot.
No, there probably won't be. That's-
Applicant may be required to...
So Matt, with that second sentence, the review fees shall be sufficient to cover town staff. We're not doing the 53 and a half, correct?
Right, so we'll pull that out too.
So if you go before planning board or conservation commission, you get your stormwater reviewed and approved, is one of these MS4 permits then could it be an automatic?
Yeah, that, it wouldn't be necessary.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
It
the way
wouldn't be
this reads.
necessary, or would it just be
Yeah.
an automatic?
Assuming you do a subdivision plan,
Yeah.
right, you're going to have a stormwater review by a PE.
Right.
That would be sufficient according to this.
Oh, okay, so
Because-
you don't need the MS4 permit then?
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
I still think it should be listed under an exemption.
Yeah, we'll add it over there.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Just the
Yeah.
words exactly as you're saying
Yeah,
it.
just
right.
because of,
Because that's open
No,
to
the-
Yep, I
interpretation.
put that over here.
appreciate that.
Yep.
All right. Anything else on section 13? We can go to 14 if that's the case.
Depending on the scale of the project. I mean,
Yeah.
this is,
So-
planning board may, I think that's good. It's not shall.
You actually accept cash?
Yeah, there's three types of surety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cash is the preferred, but by the state law, you have to accept the other forms of surety.
Yeah, I know they don't let us, they used to use cash when we did bids.
Oh, I know.
You know, my tree guy comes in, he'll bring cash famously when he's not supposed to, it's supposed to be a bid one, so that's what I'm asking. Do a lot of these cash.
What do you mean by cash? You mean green cash or not a
Bag of money,
check?
bag of
Check.
People walk in with cash.
Well,
Like, did you-
Yeah, we have to give it to Gene, it's got to go
think
in
it-
the safe, he's got to come back with a bank check.
But they're allowed to come in with a check, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He literally comes in with cash, and that's why I'm asking when
Oh,
it says
okay.
cash. We were told, make sure we can have,
Yeah, right, yes. No.
Yeah,
We don't want that, so that was my question.
they usually bring a check.
Check, yeah. That's what-
But in some
Yeah, no, we were
cases,
told no cash when you see cash,
Correct.
that's what I was thinking.
yeah, I think I'll take a look at that through.
Yeah, Gene must have a heart attack over that.
So I think not to go back a little bit to, we still need to define the language in, under surety, it's saying,
Yeah.
required committee may post before the start of land disturbance or construction activity. So you want to make sure the definitions of construction activity and land disturbance is what the board is looking to make that applicable, so under the applicability section to apply. Because some of that seemed like it was a little bit redundant.
Yeah.
Remember, there was discussion about whether if you just cut the trees down, that didn't trigger it unless you disturb the soil. So I think somebody wants to cut firewood on their
Right.
property, and they have a substantial amount of land. If they want to cut firewood, it wouldn't trigger that bylaw. If they disturb the, obviously stumping and things like that, that would exceed that maybe. But we just have to define under that section, the definitions.
Yeah. Just say start of construction activity, right?
Well, I think disturbances, I think it depends on how we're talking about disturbance versus construction
I see.
activity.
Okay.
So what the problem is this, is in the definitions, disturbance, we say see construction activities.
Yeah.
Disturbing of his existing.
So they're
vegetation.
both the same
That means
thing.
cutting a tree. That's
Right, well,
existing
That's why I'm saying, I
vegetation.
think
Yeah.
it should be,
They're both the same underneath the definitions, because they say see the other one. So,
And this is where the definition of timeline is so critical.
Right.
The reason being is state law in wetlands allows you to cut 10 quarter firewood a year.
right,
By right, if you use it for heat. Nobody can say diddly, because I've been through it.
yep.
So, over the course of 5 years, or whatever, say clear over an acre of land. So what happens now?
right, I think we should spell it out that it's not vegetation, it's actually disturbance of land and soil.
Well, and that's where the time comes in, over, you see where I'm going? It makes a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
When you talk about disturbing existing vegetation, mowing your grass could be disturbing it.
Yeah.
Right, I think we should eliminate the vegetation portion.
Yeah, they allow you to do general maintenance, it says on the other
Yeah.
part, like lawn
Okay.
maintenance, flower beds and stuff. But this is where it can get very lost in language on what is gonna go on here. And don't get me wrong, I understand,
Well,
we're only staying right in this MS4 area where it probably won't get triggered. But, there again, the language should be in here now.
I think, I think to Colin's point, when you say disturbing existing vegetation, that's your tree cutting, things like that, where really you're going to trigger this is the underlying soil, right? So if you're scraping across the land, and yes, you're going to disturb the vegetation, but you're moving soil. I think that's more of the thing. If you wanted to remove the word underneath construction activities, disturbing existing vegetation, do you strike that there?
Or,
I mean,
Clearing, grading, site preparation.
that's back in section 2,
Yes.
E.
Yeah, action to alter or disturb existing vegetation and underlying soil, not or.
There you go.
And.
There you go.
Get rid of
Yes.
the or.
Get rid of the
right.
or, say and,
There you go.
because
You need both.
you
There you
need
go.
both.
There
You
you
need to
go.
get rid of, yeah, that's
That
perfect.
looks good. Good idea.
Good catch. Is that way there if they're ripping everything out and disturbing the underlying soil?
Right,
Yeah.
that wouldn't affect anybody cutting.
Cut a tree.
you know, the
Yeah.
only thing they're doing is making their road, a road 2-track in or whatever to get at, whatever they're gonna get at. You gotta just keep that in mind.
So you may want to put something underneath the exemption regarding the forestry rights and.
Well, believe it or not, that's under the EPA Wetland Protection Act.
Yeah,
Is that
forestry rights.
document.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Matt, just to jump back to 14, underneath the surety bond, do we have to list the other forms of surety? Bond is one of them. Try whatever.
Tri-party agreement.
Tri-party agreement.
Yeah, but sometimes folks try a letter of credit, and that's not a very reliable form of surety.
Yeah.
So,
No, is that the part of the tri-party?
yeah, no, a letter of credit's separate.
Letter of credit. Yeah. No, and I don't think we have to accept that. I'm just want to be clarify of what it is. The bond, cash, and do we have to have, because the state recognizes that tri-party one in there, that's just when they talk about surety at the state level. But you have in here, or acceptable security.
Yeah, I think that covers it.
Okay.
And what I was just talking about is under Department of EPA 310 CMR 10.0 wetland. It's all for wetlands. State regs. So.
I have to go back through.
Yeah, I think we're going to go through again. Yeah.
Back through and.
All right, so I got all
We keep
sorts of
some
updates and questions to
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah.
Plenty to kick us off for our first meeting.
Yep.
I would like to really see what the application looks like, though, for this. What the actual application looks like.
Yeah. I think he's got it on the list.
Yeah.
That'd be good, because that would give us some sense.
Right.
I mean, even if there was a sample of applications from other, like, multiple communities, like,
Yep.
Yeah.
that'd be kind of cool to say, because sometimes you can get one from the Cape, or, or Framingham, right? In Framingham, you're like,
Well, maybe, does the feds have an application that you have to use?
No.
Do they tell you what you have to use for an application? No. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good.
yeah, but if there was some samples from
Yeah.
towns that are using it.
Now, is it possible legally, can you email those to us, so you only can do it when we're all here together?
No, I could do it. You
can-
guys just can't reply all to me.
We can't,
We
no
can't reply to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Any action items, or maybe just to recap on anybody doing anything specific?
Oh, sounds like I got a lot of work. I got some edits to make on the bylaw itself. I'll provide the policy and a sample application. I'll try to get a recent map from the EPA. I'll ask our stormwater consultant to attend a future meeting, probably not the next one,
Not the
but
next
one
one.
in October. How is enforcement regulated in other communities?
Yeah.
Look for examples of other stormwater bylaws, Mendon, Oxford, Sutton, Northbridge,
You
whatever we
want
can
any of
get.
us to do any of that?
I'll take some of it home.
Okay.
I can do it, during the day, and try to
Okay.
get some of my contacts with other towns, so
Oh, okay.
I'll grab a bunch of that.
How is the MS4 area created? It's a question
I'll-
for
I'll
Fed.
probably
ask
consult
Nick
it.
that. I don't mind.
Yeah.
reaching out to
Yeah.
him.
Next.
We'll give you up the list between the two.
Yeah, thanks.
When will the map be updated? We've given the census data of 2020, right?
Yeah.
That was a question.
Yep.
How are disputes handled?
Map disputes, I would say.
Map disputes, yeah.
Yeah.
How are map disputes handled?
Yep.
Disturbance of 1 acre or more for how much time?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, good question.
Research definition of agricultural use. Asked Nick about section 12, which was the remedies piece. I'm not sure what that is.
Yep.
Section 2, authority, clarify the exemptions. That's that piece where it's not intended to replace or be in derogation, add that to the exemptions, and then provide an application example. Those are the questions and comments I have.
You want me to take on any of that if you're trying to unload? Like, now the time span is a good one, because I know under some of the other permitting requirements, they don't like segmentation and things like that, so there is definitions on, you know.
What I'll do is I'll produce like a set of minutes, and if folks want to take on certain action items, just let me know.
Okay.
All right.
We'll go from there.
We're gonna look into the minute taker.
Yep.
That would be real helpful.
Yeah. Well, they're not going to be ready, like, in time for our next meeting.
Yeah.
So That's
I'll
going to take a
I can
little
reach out to
while.
my colleagues in
Yeah.
Oxford and all that. I can reach out to them and try to get some of this.
Okay,
I don't mind doing, I'll call Oxford, I'll call Northbridge, I'll reach out to all them.
okay.
Deal.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, item number 4, open session, any items before 48 hours in advance. Hearing none, seeing none, move forward. Item 5, there's no minutes for this meeting,
Right.
so we can entertain
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Made by Mike Zwiger, second by Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Call the meeting at 6:51.